Yeah. Welcome everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. We are missing a couple of commissioners, but we do have enough to go ahead and open the meeting. So we're opening the meeting for tonight for local file 25-CP-001. It was carries CP stands for comp plan, and local file 25-ZC-001, which stands for zone change. Go ahead and open the meeting, and I'm going to start with the roll calls. Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner McClellan. Yes. Commissioner Goldman. Commissioner Mopes. Here. Commissioner Metcalf.
Here. Here. Did you hear that? Here. Can you hear me?
We can't hear you.
I
Okay.
could hear her.
Seems like the people online can hear me, so it might be an issue in your room.
Commissioner Grant.
Here.
We're having sound issues.
It looks like your sound has got an X on it. Oh, the bottom.
Sure does. Thank you. Will you check?
Oh, no.
Good. Bottom. Here.
Can't hear him, huh?
They ain't talking yet.
Oh,
All right, can we try that again? So, Commissioner Metcalf.
Here.
Commissioner Grant.
Here.
Commissioner Carl.
Here.
Was that here?
I'm here.
Barely.
Hear me?
All right. We do have a quorum. Unfortunately, we're missing our chair, so can be a little choppy because I'm usually not the one running the meeting. So my apologies, everybody. Nonetheless, right in tonight we have 4 requests on the agenda. They all kind of feed into each other. The first request is to amend the City of Oak Ridge Comprehensive Plan to include a R3 or a high density residential zone and to amend the current medium density residential zone. Request number 2 is to amend a comprehensive plan, which would provide the designation for those 2 zones. And request number 3 is to amend the City of Oak Ridge zoning ordinance throughout the zoning ordinance amendments and to include the City of Oak Ridge land division ordinance, creating a unified development ordinance. And request number 4 is to rezone identified properties to medium density and rezone identified properties to high density. So a little bit of background. The Oak Ridge Code Evaluation Update Project is to recommend code amendments related to urban design, housing, green infrastructure, transportation policy, and development requirements to help the city remove barriers to creating a vibrant multimodal community. This project is partially funded by the Transportation Growth Management Program, which is a joint program of the Oregon Department of Transportation and Oregon Department of Lands Conservation and Development. So, this project has been going on for about 2 years now. We put a lot of work into it. Started with our housing needs analysis, which our housing needs analysis was completed in 2023, and identified that we do have some deficiencies, which we are trying to fix here. Deficiencies are mostly related to middle housing or the missing income housing, workforce housing. It can go by number of items, and to reduce barriers to building new manufactured home parks, and reduce hurdles in missing middle housing. The next part of this project was TGM code evaluation phase 1, which is where in phase 1 we developed housing, we examined housing availability, affordability, barriers to redevelopment and new development in the community. We looked at multimodal transportation opportunities, opportunities for green infrastructure, updated off-street parking requirements, policies, directions to support desired land use, and code modifications from the recent transportation system plan. And then code evaluation project phase 2 was to basically write those into the code that I think that we had identified. Throughout this entire project, we've had quite a bit of citizen involvement and outreach with the HNA housing analysis. We had 6 individual meetings. With the TGM phase 1 and 2, we had 15 individual meetings, not including tonight's. Another thing worth noting is planning in Oregon is there's 19 statewide planning goals that all counties and cities must comply with those that apply. Not all are applicable, some are only counties, some are only cities. First goal is citizen involvement, which goal is to develop a citizen involvement program that ensures the opportunity for citizens to be involved in all phases of the planning process, which is largely why we've had close to 17 meetings in these regards, and why we have today's meeting, and why hopefully you all received the letters stating today's meeting.
No. Never one.
Well, if somebody did not receive their letter, I have about 100 that came back from the mail. There is a process for that. It is described by the state of Oregon, which we are required to use tax information. So I don't know what happened with those 100 or so. Goal number 2 is land use planning, and we're to establish a land use planning process and policy framework as basis for all decisions and actions related to land use to ensure an adequate factual base for such decisions and actions. Goal number 10 is to provide for the housing needs and the citizens of the state. Goal 12 is transportation, to provide and encourage safe and convenient economic transportation system. And those are the applicable goals to today's action and today's meetings. And on January 15th of this year, we did notify the Department of Land Conservation Development with the proposed comprehensive plan changes that we're going to talk about today. And then staff did mail out 1,457 letters to all property owners within the urban growth boundaries. So, with that being said, go ahead and jump right into our first request for public hearing. So, local file number 25-CP-001, part 1, request number 1, and requested for a recommendation from the City of Oak Ridge Planning Commission to the Oak Ridge City Council to amend the City of Oak Ridge Comprehensive Plan. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to declare an ex parte contact or feel they have a conflict of interest, bias, or other reasons to be disqualified from the participation in this hearing? Hearing none. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to challenge any of the commission's qualifications to participate in this hearing? None. The public hearing conducted by the City of Oak Ridge Planning Commission is now open on February 18th, 2025 at 7:11 p.m. Oak Ridge City Hall. This hearing is conducted as a legislative hearing, and per Article 32, Section 34 04 of the planning commission recommendations and preparing a recommendation to city council. The planning commission may do any of the following. Require the proponent to identify the provisions and of the comprehensive plan that govern the decision and prepare findings describing how the proposal applies or fails to comply with these plan provisions. Planning commission may review the nature of the proposal and describe whether the proposal warrants processing as a legislative matter, or planning commission may prepare a recommendation and make findings in support of such recommendation. Again, this portion of the hearing, request number 1, this hearing is on make an amendment to the City of Oak Ridge Comprehensive Plan to include amended text for medium density residential and to add high density residential. Probably hear all this a couple times, but nonetheless, the planning commission of this public hearing may approve, modify, deny, request, or continue the meeting to a later date. A copy of these the minutes of this hearing will be available in city offices, and along with the rules and procedures. I'm reading part of this file. The public hearing is your opportunity to submit factual information or raise issues concerning the request based on applicable criteria listed. Failure to raise an issue at this hearing in person or by letter, or failure to provide sufficient specificity as to the criteria in order to afford the decision makers an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to the State of Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals based on the issue if the decision is appealed. Only those issues raised by testimony or letter at the original hearing may be raised in any local or state appeal of the initial decision. An issue that may be the basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals, also known as LUBA, shall be raised no later than the close of this record or the following evidentiary hearing on this application. Such issues shall be raised with an accompanying statement or evidence sufficient to afford this body adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. And those individuals wishing to register evidence or comments can testify during the hearing. The planning commission may ask questions of the staff members or others who provide testimony. When the need for public discussion ends, the planning commission closes the public hearing for its deliberation. No public testimony is permitted during that time unless the planning commission reopens the public hearing. And if anyone has any documents, maps, or letters that you wish to have considered by the planning commission, they must be formally placed in the record of the proceeding. To do that, either before or after you speak, please hand the material to staff. City staff, make sure your evidence is properly maintained. For those who will be testifying, you must provide your name and mailing address if they wish to receive notification of the decision, or even notified of the continuance, appeal, or other action on the application. For the staff report, I guess this is the time the chair would be asking if we're ready for the staff report. So yes, staff report for first one. Considerations for comprehensive plan amendments. Due to the antiquated nature of the existing document or comprehensive plan, the adopted comprehensive plan does not include background information related to recent long-range planning projects. Specifically, current text is not completely accurate and supportive of Oak Ridge's housing development goals. The following documents provide an updated framework and rationale for adding the existing comprehensive plan policies. The code evaluation update phase 1, which is attached as appendix A, the action recommend policy and code changes to address unique housing and development needs of Oak Ridge. The amendments proposed in the current phase of this project implement those recommended actions. The Oak Ridge housing needs analysis, which is attached as appendix B, code amendments and comprehensive plan additions to implement housing strategies recommended in H&A completed in 2023. And also attaches Oregon House Bill 3197, attaches appendix C, state legislation requires local governments to provide a clear and objective standard for development of all housing types. Those policy amendments echoes the commitment to follow this requirement and provide the basis for proposed local code amendments. of the comprehensive plan designation. To support the proposed creation of an R3, a high-density residential comprehensive plan designation description will be added to the comprehensive plan correspond to the residential potential height areas on the updated comprehensive plan map. Areas designated potential high density will allow for the additional housing, a greater variety of housing types. More areas of Oak Ridge currently. Residential areas of Oak Ridge have a gross density of about 4 to 5 units per acre. And the proposal for us is the following text to be added to the adopted comprehensive plan. High density residential, the areas on the comprehensive plan map designated as residential potential high density are the areas Oak Ridge considered suitable for high density housing, including multifamily housing, residential, and where there is infrastructure capacity to accommodate such development. High density residential means a gross density of up to 20 dwellings per acre. Additionally, the existing definition of medium density residential in the comprehensive plan designation should be removed in its entirety and replaced with an updated description that better reflects the community's housing needs as documented in the HNA. This proposed text with modification will support and is consistent with some of the map changes to this residential designation from low density R1. The following text is to replace the existing text for medium density residential found in the comprehensive plan. Medium density residential areas on the comprehensive plan map designated as residential potential density are suitable for a range of housing types, including duplex, triplex, and townhousing. Medium density housing means gross density of up to 16 dwelling units. So, comprehensive plan map approval criteria and process. Ordinance 550, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan. In section 3, the comprehensive plan review, revisions and updates outline the steps needed for a comprehensive plan. Section 3A states the preparation of plans, implementation measures, and plan revisions through an ongoing land use planning process will generally be based on the following broad phases. Phase 1, identify development problems and issues. That criteria, the problems with development of needed housing have been identified through the HNA and TGM efforts regarding long-range housing options. Broad phase number 2, collect necessary factual information. Both the HNA and TGM processes collect factual information on availability of housing types and densities. Factual information regarding incomes, housing costs for existing types compared to new types and limitations. Phase number 3, analyze information. Both HNA and TGM processes analyze information collected through the process. Phase 4, prepare alternate development policies. The HNA prepared and offered multiple options to meet the needed housing types and issues. Phase 5, identify and resolve any possible conflicts with plans affecting governmental units. State mandates for more housing options were identified to be in conflict with the lack of available housing options found in our long-range planning options for needed housing types. Then phase 6, recommend policy for adoption. City staff is recommending the addition of high density option and the amendment to medium density for adoption. And phase 7 is evaluate policy and programs. Evaluation of a housing options, the success of introducing the amendments and comprehensive plan will be an ongoing process carried out by the planning development department of the state. So that is staff report. We will move into the public hearing portion. So where I start calling out for your guys' comments. Are there any statements in favor of the proposed text change? Any statements in favor? Statements in favor. Are there any statements in opposition?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so we do that one at a time, and so just to make sure, we're only talking about the proposed text amendments, not where they're getting placed on the map. That make everybody clear on that, because that is the next portion. Right now, we're just talking about the book that controls, not the spots where they control. And so, in an orderly manner, feel free to come up to the Go in there and state your name, your address, and your opposition.
My name is Bob Withrow. I live at 76718 Bugle Loop in Oak Ridge. We are property owners there. Regarding this, what I would say is that this is a project that was taken on voluntarily. There was no legislative compulsion to do so. One of the goals, as Mr. Zylstra stated in the January 7th meeting, was providing low income subsidized housing for his conversation with Jacob Fox at Homes for Good. Under the guise of a student exercise, Homes for Good created a plan for a currently vacant area at Elk Meadows that was presented as part of the plan the students presented. Elk Meadows was specifically targeted as a place to provide low income subsidized housing. The whys I don't really understand, although there is some vacant land there. None of this is required by law for a city of the size of Oak Ridge, and I believe it reflects personal and professional ambitions of those involved without addressing the direct needs of the community. The process being used to justify is the recent housing needs analysis survey conducted by the city. Due to the type of survey the city conducted, they did not generate reliable data. Certainly not data that could or should be used to make the decision to upend so many residents' lives. It is common knowledge that community opt-in surveys attract generally negative responses and a greater number of responses from those who feel strongly about an issue. In no way is it reliable data for decision making. Using this data is very likely to result in unsound decisions being made. It would seem so in this case as well. For these two reasons, I propose the entire process be immediately halted until reliable data can be gathered, analyzed, and issues be determined the correct way. Those issues should be addressed by Oak Ridge residents in partnership with city commissions, and solutions for Oak Ridge be found. We should not be using blanket proposals from California-based consultants who have little interest in our city, but do have an interest in furthering their agenda with a specific income and outcome in mind. I'm prepared and willing to provide any documentation required to support my statement. Thank you.
I'll be brief. My name is Sharon Lowe. I live on 4859 Highland Ranch Drive in Elk Meadow. On Saturday, the 15th of February, 22 members of the Elk Meadow community met. And in that 1 hour meeting, we came up with 4 pages of concerns. And I just want to submit those concerns to you. I don't think we want to read them. I don't think we answer any questions in the short time that we have. So who do I turn that over to? Okay. I'm also including a letter from another member, Joyce Papel, who is in the hospital in surgery, but she had something to say to me. And this is the 4 pages.
Oh, sure. So there's no, people going to Joyce next.
Oak Ridge City Planning Commission regards proposed Oak Ridge zoning Elk Meadow subdivision. I respectfully request that the consideration for rezone Elk Meadow subdivision from R1 to R2 be abandoned. Changing this zoning would be an upzone, which is likely to be damaging to the current and future property. The CCRs that are in place, the property owners have agreed to do not allow for multifamily dwellings. Most lots would not accommodate that type of building or necessary parking requirements. The lots are owned and occupied mostly by seniors and retired people with few exceptions. The CCRs that are in place are part of what makes these properties attractive. The rezoning to R2/multifamily would not be in compliance with the CCRs and would definitely devalue many properties in this area. The city of Oak Ridge has other properties that will be more adaptable and convenient to the R2 zoning requirements. It should be considered if this is true, if this is a true design. With regards, Joyce Apple is that property owner, 76845 New.
So,
Is there time for more comments?
absolutely, yes, absolutely.
My name is Cindy March. I live at 76703 Bugle Loop in Elk Meadows. I moved here a couple years ago. I moved to Elk Meadows because I wanted to move to a beautiful area that had CCNRs that would prevent certain things from happening to keep the neighborhood nice. I spent pretty much my life savings to buy my house. I'm infuriated that this is being proposed right now, that anyone could think of changing our beautiful Elk Meadows community to change the zoning. I don't know how that can even be presented. It will totally devaluate our homes prices. It will affect our quality of life. It would ruin my life. I mean, I moved here for a better life, and I just can't imagine this is happening. And it makes me very, very upset. So I'm just speaking from my heart. I don't have anything written. I just know a lot of other people are retirees that live in Elk Meadows that feel the same way. I love the area, and personally, in my belief, I feel they should look at like the areas where they have the mobile homes, where you come into, no offense to people who live there, but they can make a nice little condo there with low cost, well, how am I trying to say? They can make some condos there instead of mobile home for people for low income housing. Why don't they make Oak Ridge better instead of taking away from what's already good? Elk Meadows is good, so why take away from it? So why don't you make other areas better? You drive into Oak Ridge, you see a mobile home that's been there for months with graffiti on it. I mean, I don't think Oak Ridge is attractive when you drive past it, but you can make it attractive. Why don't we spend our efforts on making it better? You know, looking at taking the mobile home and making that into a nice condo with low income housing. I mean, I just don't understand who thought it was a good idea to change Elk Meadows. So I apologize for getting upset, but it's very upsetting to me.
We understand, we understand totally.
Thank you, guys.
We do need to, is there any, anyone on Zoom wanting to make a public comment? Hearing none, we'll go back to the room.
Hi, my name is Diana Lamb, and I'm at 48329 Official Street. I'm actually right around the corner. But and I'm new on the scene here because this is the first meeting. This is actually the first I've heard of it, probably about a week ago when I got my first letter. So man, I've thought about it. I think that my lot would probably go up in value, but that's not what I'm concerned about. There's a lot of reasons why it is not a good idea in my mind. For one thing, we have no jobs here. Most of the people commute to work. So creating low income housing is, I don't think it's a very good idea at all. Because we have no jobs, people commute, investors will love to develop Section 8 housing, which provides a steady stream of income at the taxpayer's expense. I see this as a huge problem because it encourages the welfare state, which was never meant to become a lifestyle. It is a terrible idea. Get people hooked on handouts. We're basically robbing from the middle America to pay for, in most cases, people who don't want to work. We need people who are able to contribute, sorry, this is my rough draft, so I'm kind of. We need people who are able to contribute and be compatible to society. And if not, why should we be strong-armed to pay for it? Mixing this type of housing in with our community isn't in the best interest of this community and will destroy rural life here. And in my mind, I look at these pictures and I see a little Eugene. And I think that if I wanted to live in Eugene, I would have bought in Eugene. So those are the problems that I see. I quite frankly wouldn't have bought in Eugene. Oh yeah, I just said that. All right. Smart growth, smart cities, 15-minute cities is being encouraged all across the country and all around the world. And it's designed to end our rural way of life. Between that and the fire map, we are being burnt out, priced out by insurance rates skyrocketing, and being told it isn't safe to live in these areas. All they have to do is put fires out and bring back logging, then the economy would boom again. Smart growth is not the answer, nor is it smart for rural America. We are being stripped of the reasons why we moved here in the first place. We have a sobriety problem, country, and a productivity problem, and a spending problem, not a housing problem. We don't need a bigger welfare state at the taxpayer's expense. It simply isn't sustainable. Thank you.
My name is Justin Dimick, and I live at 48596 Pike Drive with my wife Raquel. I'd like to present a packet to the planning department about. It's a study that was done by the city of Beaverton, specifically outlining CCNRs and restrictions and limits on middle housing. It basically, what it says is the city of Beaverton did a study on this. And even if the city changes its zoning to allow more than one housing unit per lot, the limitations found in the CCNRs, if enforced, would prevent more than one housing unit from being constructed. So I'd just like to present that to the group here. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Fred Carper. We have a home on 76742 Bugle Loop. My wife and I built there this past year. We had the lot for 4 years. And yeah, we love the area. I look at Oak Ridge and see a beautiful place with a bright future. I know that its population has not grown much since 1989. So I question the need for high density housing. Don't know what we're trying to accomplish with that. So yeah, interested in what we're going for, and very concerned about some of the other things that were brought up about investors from way outside of our community here that would be taking a lion's share in profit on such housing. It opens the door for some unscrupulous stuff or things that don't benefit the community here. So yeah, I love Oak Meadows. I love the area. When you look at the city website, there's a description of the different neighborhoods that people can move to, and this one is highlighted as a place, a different kind of place. It's a different zone than what you might find in other parts of Oak Ridge. There's some great neighborhoods there along Roaring Rapids and I've been around the higher parts of town there. We've enjoyed our stay here and getting to know the place, and I look forward to enjoying it for many years in the future. We built this place with kind of our retirement years in mind, so we wanted to see it stay as it is.
Raquel Erdman. I also live at 48596 Pike Drive in South Meadows. I just wanted to reiterate that House Bill 2001 prohibits new CCNR documents from being enforced if they were allowed single-family dwelling on a lot, but prohibited duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, townhomes, and cottage clusters, and accessory dwelling units. Just to be clear, this law does not affect the CCNRs in place prior to January 1st, 2020. Ours have been in place far longer. If you rezone one of these areas like ours, you're going to put the financial burden on the residents to sue anybody who is going to build outside of the CCNRs. And that is just simply not right. We are mostly here as retirees on fixed incomes. And to put that burden on us residents would be completely unfair. I know, it's not. And it's a great comment that where is the need? Where is the need? Most of Oak Ridge, in my opinion, is low income housing. This is the one neighborhood that I live in that aspires to be better. We have all built with these CCNRs in place. We have all enforced the CCNRs and have stopped buildings when those building plans were not submitted. So it will continue to be enforced. You're going to put a huge financial burden on these residents.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jade Swordall. Wife Tamara, and I live at 4817 Westwood. This is the third meeting that I've attended regarding comprehensive plan. So I've learned quite a bit. Still learning, seems like every day. But I think I'm at the point where I can say that this plan overall is way overblown. It's trying to do way too much for the actual concerns of the housing needs in Oak Ridge. And when you send out a letter, public notice to the citizens of Oak Ridge, telling them that the property values might drop, that in itself is an indictment of comprehensive plan, given what you're trying to solve. But I actually have comments on what I thought was going to be three, maybe you can help me read, three opportunities to testify, one being the comprehensive plan, the second being the enact planning portion.
Yes, so we will
And
have,
then the third part being the rezoning portion.
yes,
Is that correct?
opportunities for them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, this one here was just in reference to comprehensive plan, again, was not in reference to any location inside Oak Ridge. Just the comprehensive.
Just
plan.
changing the language for the comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
that's all this.
The next step, we start talking about location.
I think, not all of us have time to attend a lot of these, so we're not real familiar with the process. But since the public testimony was started, we'll go ahead and address the comprehensive plan. So a little historical reference. The housing needs analysis was really the foundation for everything that we're talking about here, including the map planning and rezoning. And that document informed from the survey that was conducted, requesting input on housing needs for the communities of Oak Ridge and Westburg. And that document, the HNA housing needs analysis, is really the foundation of everything that's happened since that document was published. That actually propelled looking into exactly what the housing needs were projected to be. And so I wanted to talk about that because I think it's probably the most important thing that I would have to say tonight. So the historical picture of population in Oak Ridge, we started in 1970. The population was 3,422 people. Both mills were operating, Heinz and Copenhagen. There were tons of jobs. In 2023, the census data showed a population of 3,200. So over the course of 53 years, the population diminished by 200. Virtually zero statistically growth. And then when you look at the data that started this whole thing, the housing needs analysis, they projected out a 20-year population forecast, which let's see here. Yeah, they did a 20-year population forecast, and it started in 2020. So kind of a fortunate side effect of that is that we now have 4 years of data where our population is done. That data shows that we've lost 82 people since 2020, which is part of the HNA projection period. In those same 4 years, the HNA anticipated, and again, it was part of, well, we need more housing, we need to change zoning laws. Projected 216 people population growth forecast. So I'll just kind of summarize that. They forecasted growth of 260 people in 4 years. The actual number was a reduction in population, 2.86%. So the housing needs analysis, which was again the foundation of everything, they were off by 125%. So a rational person would say, well, we built this whole thing on a house of cards. The threat to people's personal property, their home values, it might be a joke. Incidentally, 4 years of 20-year plan is 20% of that entire. So from a statistical viability standpoint, that's you can use that data. It's 4 years, and it kind of coincides with 53-year historical. So yeah, I'm just really skeptical that this is a whole plan. I will comment later on mapping and zoning aspect of this.
Is there any of those you want to touch on Zoom wanting to testify in opposition? Once, going twice. Anyone else in the room here to testify in opposition? That's no in opposition? Sorry, I have to say it 3 times. Hearing none, moving on. Are there any statements in general? Statements in general? Statements in general, hearing none. Does planning commission have any further questions of public or staff? Planning commission?
So this is just creation of the zone for attendance
No, this is not creation.
of the language and.
Right, just the creation of the language will allow for the creation of the zone. With the way it is written right now, the comprehensive plan does not allow for a high density. And the medium density is, could be something. Any further questions for planning commission?
Yes, questions?
Not. Sorry. Unless you address the planning commission.
I just was wondering, is this something we're gonna be able to vote on, or who has control over?
That would be city council.
I'm just not familiar with that, but who's the council? City council, and
Yeah.
how many people are?
So,
That's, so 7 people control our destiny? Seriously, that's amazing.
there is, Oregon is one of the rare states that for land use decisions like this, public referendums do exist and they do happen. So that is also something that you could keep in mind. So know that, so there are processes to reverse city council decisions on land use.
Well, like Raquel said, I think we're gonna end up having a lawsuit, which is gonna be at our expense. I'm just saying.
Um. Does the planning commission have any further questions of public staff? Further questions?
I have a question.
Once, twice. I'm terribly sorry, sir, that's. Does the planning commission have any further questions of public staff? All right, moving on, we'll close the public hearing at this time. And now is. Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
I move we close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
This hearing is officially closed at,
Oh. Hello? Can anybody hear me there at the meeting? Can anyone hear me at the meeting?
I can hear you.
Okay. I live over here in, on Berry Street, 47746 Berry Street. And I'm very much so interested in what you are wanting and planning to do with my property here. Does it mean that you're trying to take it all away? Or what does it mean?
No, that's not what it means. What it means, what it boils down to is that we were examining our existing building codes and seeing what improvements we could make to make them more friendly for development. And part of the process of doing that was first to take an inventory of all the city's infrastructure and to find what areas of the city would best be suited to be supported by the current infrastructure that we have. So specifically, we can, if you can let us know where you live and everything, we can look that up and let you know, but we're not taking away your property.
Okay, because I live here on Berry Street, on Rainbow and Berry as you turn in on Berry Street. Yes, I live in the mobile that sits on the up on the little hill, I think. But anyway, yes, That's what I was kind of getting the impression from what I was reading. And it's in the zoning. And when it's zoned, what are we now? Just for a single family? Is it an R1 right now?
Rick, can you answer that, please? Mona, more than likely it's R1.
Okay. But that's what I'm meaning. If, once it's gonna happen, if they change all the meaning, the codes and stuff, and the changes in the zoning.
Right. Well, not actually, nothing's going to happen until you decide as the landowner to take advantage of the changes in the code if the change does affect your property.
Well, why did I get a letter if the change didn't affect it?
Well, no, you misunderstand what I'm saying. We made the zoning may change, but it does, okay, the zoning may or may not change. However, what happens with that zoning is really dependent upon your future plans. So if it went from like an R1 to an R2, then that would mean that you could actually put, if you wanted to, you could modify your property to have 2 residential units on that same lot.
Oh.
As an example, Mona, okay?
Okay. Okay. Well, actually, I'm Barbara. I'm the property owner. But yes, but Mona set the computer up for me.
Oh, okay.
Yes. That's okay.
So, Rick, is there anything that I might have missed or misled her on that?
Am I understanding everything right?
Yeah, no, I'm just checking to see if any of my other commissioners or my staff is hearing me.
Yes,
Okay, Rick, was there anything that I said that was misleading for her?
no, not, I don't believe so.
Okay. So yeah, you're okay.
Okay, then they're not wanting me to get rid of my mobile because this is my home.
Oh, absolutely not.
In fact, actually, we're trying to allow for more mobiles.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, you're good.
Both that makes.
Chair,
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
all right, Chair, I did have a first and a second to close the public hearing. Would you like to reopen or continue the public hearing?
Where are we talking to?
Chair, Kevin?
Kevin?
Uh-huh.
No, just continue on. I'm sorry about being late, but my computer was being particular.
Technology is great until it's not. All right, so moving on, no more input is allowed unless planning commission reopens the public hearing, which they may do so. Now it is time for planning commission deliberations and motions if they so desire.
Commissioners, do you have anything to add or any comments to make or any deliberations to make? I guess we can move on, Rick.
Let's
Yes, we can move on.
move on. What is the pleasure of the commission? Do we hear a motion?
Rick, can you repeat that? I didn't hear that.
Is there, what is the pleasure of the commission and is there a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
No, a motion on the request number 1, part number 1. Well, see,
Let me hold on, let me get there. So you want a motion to send our recommendations to city council?
Or not, so the commission has 4 choices. Choice number 1 is to approve.
Yeah.
As,
Make a motion to approve.
sorry, say
Yeah, amend the comprehensive plan to include the following text: high-density residential. The areas on the comprehensive plan map designated as residential potential high density are areas the city of Oak Ridge considers suitable for high-density housing, including multifamily residential, and where there is infrastructure capacity to accommodate such development. High-density residential means a gross density up to 20 dwelling units per acre, and to amend the comprehensive plan to replace the existing text for medium density residential. The areas on the comprehensive plan designated as residential potential medium density are suitable for a range of housing types, including duplexes, triplexes, and townhomes. Medium density housing means a gross density of up to 16 dwelling units per acre. So do we need to call a vote, or do we have a second on my motion?
we have a second.
I'll second.
We have a vote?
We have a first and a second. Any more deliberation?
Any more discussion?
Any more discussion yet?
I'll just add that I'm in favor of changing the text. But what we decide to do with that is up to us later, and this is not necessarily deciding who or where these things will apply, but this does give us the ability in the future to grow as the city needs to.
Yes, this is Commissioner Carl. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I guess I'd like some clarification. On quite a few number of residents of Elk Meadow spoke against, and well, first I was impressed by the fact that so many of them would come out and participate. But by passing this, are we going to impact them?
Potentially, right?
At this juncture, no.
But potentially.
So perhaps you could explain that to me and to them.
So what that means is, in order to amend the zoning or the comprehensive plan designation, we first must put a high density and medium density into the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is the 20-year directing document for the city of Oak Ridge, which was written in 1978. Without the comprehensive plan is a long-range plan, which everything else must build off of. So that is the foundation. We cannot change anything without changing the comprehensive plan first.
So by passing this doesn't necessarily impact the residents of Elk Meadow.
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it makes it fun. It makes it possible. So it's
Changes are one definition, of course it's that.
No, it's the entire city. So this affects the entire city equally.
individually.
Can I say something?
But it opens the door for not just our.
I feel like it's on the lower people to Oak Ridge, and they don't care about us.
So would you like to call for the question? Steady, yes.
I didn't catch that, Rick.
One more time, please, Kevin.
I said I didn't catch what you just said.
Any more deliberation, or are we ready to call for the question?
I think we're ready for the call for questions.
All righty. The proposal was as written, was to amend the comprehensive plan to include the following text. High density residential, the areas on the comprehensive plan map designated as residential potential high density are the areas of city of Oak Ridge considered suitable for high density housing, including multifamily residential, where the infrastructure capacity to accommodate such development. High density residential means a gross density of up to 20 dwelling units per acre. And to amend the comprehensive plan to replace the existing text for medium density residential, the areas on the comprehensive plan map designated as residential potential. Potential medium density are suitable for a range of housing types, including duplexes, triplexes, and townhouses. Medium density housing means the gross density of up to 16 dwelling units per acre. Commissioner Anderson is not present. Commissioner Vogelsman,
Aye.
Commissioner McClellan,
Aye.
Commissioner Moats.
Aye.
Commissioner Carl,
Aye.
Commissioner Grant,
Aye.
Commissioner Metcalf.
Aye.
That motion passes. Next, for this motion, we will be sending this exact same question to City Council on March 20th, so you all have an opportunity, a second opportunity at that time. Well,
Where's that key?
so, Chair, would you like me to continue, or you want to hop in?
Please continue.
Got it. All right. We are at local 525 CP 001, part 2, request number 2. Requested for a recommendation from City of Oak Ridge Planning Commission to Oak Ridge City Council to amend the City of Oak Ridge Comprehensive Plan map. Any member of the Planning Commission wish to declare an ex parte contact, either a site visit or feel they may have a conflict of interest, bias, or other reason to be disqualified from participation in this hearing? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to challenge any of the commission's qualifications to participate in this hearing? Hearing none.
Wait, are you asking if we have anything to say?
No.
About conditions?
No, yeah.
All right. This public hearing conducted by the City of Oak Ridge Planning Commission is now open February 18th, 2025 at 8:05 p.m. And in City of Oak Ridge City Hall. This hearing is conducted as a legislative hearing per Article 32, Section 3204, Planning Commission recommendation. In preparation and recommendation to City Council, the Planning Commission may do any of the following. They may require the proponent to identify the provisions of the comprehensive plan that govern the decision and prepare findings describe how the proposal complies or fails with these plans provisions. Planning Commission may review the nature of the proposal and describe whether the proposal warrants processing as a legislative matter, or the Planning Commission may prepare a recommendation and make findings in support of such recommendations. This hearing is on an amendment to the City of Oak Ridge Comprehensive Plan map to include designations as presented in map number 1, amending locations designated medium density residential and amend locations of high density residential. Planning Commission in this public hearing may approve, modify, deny the request, or continue the meeting at a later date. Copy of the minutes of this hearing will be available at city offices along with the rules and procedures, which I am reading as part of this file. The public hearing is your only opportunity to submit factual information or raise issues concerning the application based on applicable criteria listed. Failure to raise an issue at this hearing in person or by letter, or failure to provide sufficient specificity as to the criteria in order to afford the decision makers an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the State of Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. If the decision is appealed, only those issues raised by testimony or letter at the original hearing may be raised in a local or state appeal of the initial decision. An issue that may be The basis for an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals shall be raised no later than the close of record or at the following final evidentiary hearing on this application. Such issues shall be raised with an accompanying statement or evidence sufficient to afford the body an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Then those individuals wishing to register evidence or comments can testify. During the hearing, the planning commission may ask questions of the staff members or others who provided testimony. When the need for a public discussion ends, the planning commission closes the public hearing for its deliberations. No public testimony is permitted during that time unless the planning commission reopens the public hearing. If you have documents, maps, or letters you wish to have considered by the planning commission, they must be formally placed in the record of the proceedings. To do that, either before or after you speak, please hand the materials to staff. City staff make sure your evidence is properly maintained. Those that will be testifying must provide their name and full mailing address if they wish to receive notice of decision, be notified of for appeal or other actions of the application. We are now ready for the staff. Consideration for comprehensive plan map amendment. For the zoning changes to align with the comprehensive plan map, the planning commission needs to first consider recommended changes of the comprehensive plan map for the city council. Neither the city of Oak Ridge comprehensive plan nor ordinance 874, the city of Oak Ridge zoning ordinance give guidance on criteria to be applied for comprehensive plan map amendments per Department of Land Conservation and Development recommendations. Please consider the criteria for a comprehensive plan map amendment in the same manner as the zoning change outlined in City of Oak Ridge zoning ordinance Article 29. Proposed comprehensive plan map changes are represented in the map titled Proposed Map Plan Designation, map number 1, which is at the end of these documents. Additionally, the parcels subject to change are identified by tax lot number, current plan designation, current zoning, and proposed change are attached to Appendix D. Please note some tax lots are identified as Lane County zoning jurisdiction. This occurs when a tax lot parcel is within the urban growth boundary, but not yet annexed into the city of Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge has jurisdictional for comprehensive plan map and map designation within the urban growth boundary and zoning jurisdiction within city limits. Any parcel within the UGB that is annexed into the city must have a comprehensive plan map designation. Areas proposed for the comprehensive plan map redesignation was largely chosen based on the following criteria. Criteria number 1, only parcels that are currently zoned for residential use. The number of parcels that are zoned and being used for residential purposes are found not align with the comprehensive plan designation. For this reason, some parcel designations are being proposed to change from a non-residential use to a residential use designation. Second criteria was existing water and sewer infrastructures. Parcels proposed for medium density residential abut a minimum of a 4-inch water main and an 8-inch sewer main. Parcels proposed for high density residential abut a minimum of a 6-inch water main and an 8-inch water main. Parcels proposed for both medium and high density are no greater than 500 feet from a fire hydrant. Further criteria with natural hazards, regardless of the infrastructure capacity, parcels within the floodplain zone and defined by FEMA and the National Floodplain Insurance Program were not selected to be redesignated to a higher residential density. Regardless of infrastructure capacity, parcels on mild slopes were selected at medium density. Parcels with steep slopes were selected to remain at low density. Comprehensive designation district change review finding of fact. The planning commission should look at each item and their finding of fact and address them for the record. The Oak Ridge zoning ordinance section 29.03 states any use or overlay district amendment proposal must be shown to be in conformance with each of the following criteria. Criteria number 1, the proposed amendment conforms to the comprehensive plan or substantial changes in the conditions that occur which render the comprehensive plan inapplicable to the requested change. The plan should be amended as proposed by the proponent of the change. If this is the case, the plan must be amended before final action on the district change. For that criteria, The proposed comprehensive plan map changes conform to the comprehensive plan as amended through this process. Provided the comprehensive plan text request number 1 is first recommended to the city council for adoption. Criteria number 2, the proposed amendment fulfills a demonstrated public need for a particular activity or use of land within the area in question. The proposed amendment fulfills the need for housing options outlined in the 2023 housing analysis. The designation changes to fulfill amended density residential elements of the comprehensive plan. Criteria number 3, if a residential zone is involved, the proposed residential district or districts best satisfy the objectives of the comprehensive plan does not exclude opportunities for adequate provisions of low and moderate housing or needed housing types as defined in OAR 660-08-015 within the subject neighborhood area. The proposed finding is the proposed residential district satisfies the comprehensive plan as amended through this process. Comprehensive plan nor the comprehensive plan map exclude opportunities for adequate provisions of low or moderate housing or needed housing types as defined in OAR 660-08-015 within the subject neighborhood. Criteria number 4, the proposed zone district is compatible with the existing anticipated surrounding land uses. Finding is proposed residential zoning districts are compatible with the existing and anticipated surrounding land use. Considerations were also given for the existing infrastructure to accommodate higher density. Planning Commission, that is your staff reports. Any questions of staff?
I have a quick question, because I'm new to this process, I have been following what's been happening in, the planner and used to reading code, that's no problem to me, but there. I'm just curious in terms of the process, for public feedback, and it just seems like something for surprise, I just wondered, what are the touch points, looking at individual neighborhoods, was it in the housing needs analysis? What those 15 sets of week, what it is.
Right, so no, to clarify, the recommendations are not based on neighborhoods at all. They're only based on infrastructure of neighborhoods. They're only based on natural hazards. And so there was no, that was actually something that I was trying to avoid, choosing one neighborhood over the other by keeping it strictly an infrastructure-based decision. That way it doesn't look like we're playing favoritism towards certain neighborhoods. And any other questions before we, yes?
So when you're talking about the natural hazards and you number B in there, it says parcels on mild slopes and then steep slopes, how do you determine what's mild and what's?
Those came from the housing needs analysis, and we also got a version from the University of Oregon, which aligned, and that's what we used. We overlaid those over top of the identified.
They use that criteria?
I used
both
of
the
their
slopes of.
Yeah. The areas they had identified as natural hazards, plus a little bit of just common knowledge of the community.
Is it like greater than 10% rating? Greater than 10. 15?
Don't recall the actual raising it, but I can get that for you.
That's right, I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
I have a question.
Yes.
So this is, if I'm correct, this is the space where everybody's lot, their lot number, everything else is listed as being moved from R1 to R2 or R3 because of or designated by the infrastructure that is there where they live. Is that correct?
Partially, and I only say partially because it's semantics. So the designation is different from the zone. The zone has to match it's supposed to match designation, so that's why we try to do designation first. There are a lot of areas in the bridge where that has gone awry, which we're trying to correct a couple of those here as well. But yes, they're all the ones that are proposed or in upzoned designation are adjacent to infrastructures that can support it. That was. the question.
So this is basically a separate hearing if people have. If they have an issue with their property being listed. Or changed from an R1 to an R3, this is where they need to speak into public comment, is that correct?
Again, only partially correct, only because Oregon land use has two separate, a designation and a zoning. So this is just a designation piece, not necessarily zoning. piece. So you can't rezone something to what it is not designated for. So
Understand.
for example, if the designation was to be approved, but the zoning was not, then the individual owners throughout time can ask for a rezone, but they can only rezone to what is designated. That's why the 20-year plan is the guiding document, and if you want to make changes, you can only make changes to what the document guides you to. Does that make sense?
So what we're talking about right now is just adding designations, not the zone.
Correct. They're two separate, correct.
Got it.
You can't rezone without a designation.
Right.
So could you repeat the part about the property owner if they were to want to?
Rezone in the future. If, let's say the designation passes, but the zoning does not. That designation would then be the new plan map, and in the future, if somebody decided to rezone their individual lot, they could come back to planning commission and ask for that rezone.
Oh, okay.
But then you end up with what's called, then you end up with single parcels that are mismatched and kind of hodgepodge, and that could be potentially be spot zoning, which is not allowed. I know that's kind of contradictory, but the other question.
Other question.
1 second, please. Any more questions from commission? Hearing none, let's move into statements in favor. Do I hear any statements in favor for comp plan designations? Statements in favor? Statements in favor. Statements in opposition. Do I hear statements in opposition for changing the comp plan designation as shown on the maps to the side of there?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So if we do that in the orderly manner as we did before, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That's the list and then let it 427 East First Street and well, I'm not in health benefits. I appreciate all of the methods. I really have a problem with this designation change. I live in a very old area of Oak Ridge, and a long time. It's all individual homes. Redesignating it to high density would be, I think, take away a lot of the character of our end of the community. While I recognize that it is important to have various designations so that we can accommodate when appropriate and where appropriate duplexes, quads, or townhomes. That is something that we will see coming in the future, and not necessarily because we're growing, we're not growing, but we do have a need for various types of housing for various income levels in appropriate sizes. To redesignate our area, or my area at least first, into high density takes away the whole character of our single family dwelling. In addition, those areas that are being designated are along into my area, are alongside the railroad. I don't see that that is something, while it is not as land that is as valuable, it is also land that is more likely to be impacted by any railroad accidents that might happen. God forbid, we haven't really had one here, but we are prepared if we should, and there is always that possibility. I think that's not a good planning for the future, to put high density alongside the railroad.
So I would ask that we don't redo that. It seems odd that I'm talking about just one little section of Oak Ridge, but I know that Oak Meadows people will talk about their sections and anyone else here. I don't oppose high density. I'll talk about it in our next public hearing section, because there are some things that we've written in that are wrong, like 3 stories, and we're not talking about lighting, we're not talking about parking, we'll talk about that later on individuals, because we're not allowing for enough parking for 30 units. It's gonna be pushed out all on the street. We don't have the kind of parking. Anyway, that's all.
Hi, I am Kim Carver, and I'm one of the Elk Meadows folks. We own a home at 76742 Bugle Loop. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the redesignation. My husband and I are fairly new to the community, and we sank a big chunk of our hopes and dreams and future and retirement into this beautiful home that we built. And we built it with the future thought that we were going to have this beautiful area. We were going to get to know a few of our neighbors. We were going to continue to have these herds of elk going through our front yard, that we were going to be living by these CCNRs that we were held to. 1,600 square foot house, which is much bigger than 2 people need, but we put our money into building a house like that because that's what we bought. That's what we were sold when we chose this place in Oak Ridge. And this redesignation, you're going to change the character of that entire area. I mean, Oak Ridge is awesome. It's quirky, it's fun, it's weird. But what Oak Ridge needs are some areas that are just really nice. I mean, you create this place that, you know, you've got this great little plot of land and you've got these neighbors over there, and you don't have a mobile home park back behind you. There are mobile home parks already all over this community. Why would we redesignate and take a spot that can really be continue to like turn into this really special little spot where you can attract people to add to the tax base, to support the community, to retire here and continue to feed into this community? And what we're going to just build apartment complexes and duplexes, and it's gonna turn into Eugene, it's gonna turn into Beaverton and Portland. I mean, there's not even enough people for that to happen, but I mean, you provide all this low income housing, people will come, and where are they going to work? This redesignation in this area, I know we need a variety of different types of houses, but how about keeping some gems just beautiful as they are? And keeping some of these older neighborhoods like as they are, keeping the character of this place that we chose to put our lives and our money into, just to change it and turn it into something that we're trying to get away from. We're moving away from this. So I'm with you. I'm upset about it. I'm new. Maybe I don't even deserve to be this upset about it, but I've met people that I care about. It's gonna affect us. It's gonna affect our property values. It's gonna affect our standard of living. It's gonna affect a lot. So I don't think this should be taken lightly. And I do think that there are people that are going to be making some money off of this. And I'll tell you who that's not going to be if all these changes happen. It's not going to be us. And we're not even planning on just coming and building and selling. Like, this is where we want to live. So please, you guys, do not turn where we want to live into the place that we're trying to get away from, which is high density nightmare. You know, you guys are talking about this redesignation and the things that are needed, and all I've heard about is the size of water pipes and the size of like how much, you know, gray water and black water can get from point A to point B. But how about the sidewalks? How about the parking? How about what if there's a fire in and around our area and people have to get out of Elk Meadows and get to somewhere safe? And we're stuck in this massive traffic jam because we have all of these high density, medium density homes all over the place and cars everywhere. This just sounds not like the place that I want to be. And we're lucky enough to be able, I mean, we're just two teachers, right? But we're good with our money. We're lucky enough to be able to pull roots and get out if we have to, and we will. We will. So do you want to attract more people that want to live here and give back to the community? Or do you just want to attract a bunch of people that can't afford to live anywhere else? I'm sorry, this it's about the redesignation, and I want to love it here, I really do. I want to stay here, I really do. So this is making it really yucky for me. And thank you for listening, sorry. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
I will tell you that listening to the last meeting on YouTube, there are some in this room who were gleeful about the feelings that you have and many of us have. It's food for thought. My name is Bob Withrow. I still live at 76718 Eagle Loop. With regard to item 5, the proposed comprehensive map, I would refer the commission to the city's own webpage, which states, among other claims, that there is a range of affordable housing throughout the city, and it also touts a lower cost of living. There's no saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So why are we? According to the city, there's an ample supply of affordable housing, and we can boast a low cost of living. Given this, it seems that many of the changes on the map are arbitrary and reflect less on the real needs of Oak Ridge and more on the personal and professional goals of those involved with the remapping. The utopian proposals from big city planners do not meet the needs of Oak Ridge and address problems we don't have. What the proposals do accomplish is to recreate through the whole city the chaotic development visible in some parts of Oak Ridge. Do we really want that? And with so many homes available now and population growth predicted at a few hundred over the next 2 decades, why do we need to change anything at all? The city has already said we're good. Right on their website. Once more, I refer back to discussions based on questionable and unreliable data. It would be unconscionable to allow that data to inform rational decision-making that has the broad effects of this proposal. Again, I have the documentation. It's right here. This came right off the city website this afternoon. They list some nice subdivisions. They talk about Elk Meadows, of course. In fact, they're selling Elk Meadows as it is, with nice views and CCNRs and all of that. They talk about affordable homes from 75,000 to 500,000. So I don't know what we need to change, because it seems we already have it all. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Dave Hernandez, and I live at 76888 Eagle Loop. And I'd like to present some food for thought for the planning commission, because it is all about planning. You're proposing, and nothing gets rigged, there's widespread zoning changes throughout the city of Oak Ridge. It seemed to me that if you're planning for this type of housing, that you'd want to make into consideration how these individuals will be living and what their needs are. One, somebody's mentioned sidewalks. You need pedestrian thoroughfares. You're not going to get that to Elk Meadows unless you put gold sidewalks all along West Oak, because there is no safe way to get down in a walking down front. You have children who are going to be living in these high density living. Where are they going to play? Are they going to play out in the street, or are you going to build parks for them to be accommodated to have recreation? Have you talked to the school district? Are they going to be able to accommodate the increased amount of students that is possible? of rezoning would do for the type of communities you want to see in Oak Ridge. Public transportation. Are they gonna drive buses up West Oak to the Elk Meadows area to pick up people who can't walk down that street to get to public transportation? I think there's a lot of more consideration into planning. If this is what Oak Ridge is looking for in the future, you need to plan for an area where all these services can be applied in a reasonable amount of way. It can't be just vacant land and infrastructure. So I asked the planning commission to plan. Not just throw out a shotgun shot out there to try to fix something that really isn't a big need right now and really isn't broken. Thank you for your time.
Bill Erdman, again, 4516 Pike Drive. I just want to speak to the terms of infrastructure. I know this isn't the planning phase or particular zones at this time, but I'd like to know what those criteria actually are, because that's a picture of our house. And I can tell you there is no infrastructure there. None. As was spoken, we have no sidewalks. We have no road where they want to put this big, beautiful townhome community. No road. Our CCNRs, as we bought our land, that undeveloped area is the responsibility of the landowner to put in curvature, sewer, water, cable, electric, in the roadway, which right now is just considered an easement, which each landowner owns half of that easement and is financially responsible to maintain that easement. So if we're talking infrastructure, what is that criteria exactly? Not just in close proximity, who puts that out? The city hasn't provided a single sidewalk, street. There's no street lights up there. There's almost zero police presence. We were personally robbed when we first built our house. We reported, we had a footstep in mud on our driveway. Every single surface of our vehicle had been touched, gone through to the tune of $3,500 worth of items stolen. We had a neighbor down at High Prairie who personally witnessed the transaction of goods being moved. We were told an officer would come up and make the report. Nobody ever showed up. We got an email and phone call. So I would like to know where the infrastructure for any of these land areas, including Elk Meadows, what criteria is considered infrastructure? Because we don't even have street lights. City doesn't plow up there. City doesn't maintain our roads. City doesn't put in our stop signs. None of it. Anybody have an answer to that question? What is the infrastructure?
Terribly sorry, we're only, if the planning commission decides to carry that question forward, their time will come.
Okay. I appreciate that in consideration. Thank you.
So Justin Dimick, 48596 Pike Drive. So since we're talking about infrastructure and things like that in the high density housing, one thing I don't think that people really consider about is I was 30 years in law enforcement, retired, and I worked for the city of Cannon Beach, the city of Seaside, the city of Astoria, and Yamhill County Sheriff's Office. And I've personally seen firsthand when high density, low income housing goes in, there's a rash amount of problems. Drugs, crime, abandoned vehicles, high traffic, speeding, it brings down the quality of living immensely. And I don't think we need that here. We already have poor quality of living in a lot of areas here in Oak Ridge and. Yeah, I think it ought to be thought about. A lot more than it is. I'm pretty angry that this is even being brought up right now. It just, we all have the same common theme here. We've all retired. We want to live in peace. We don't want to be bothered with the city bullshit. And to bring it into, I don't care what neighborhood it is in here in town. It's just infuriating. Absolutely infuriating that we would even talk about it. So that's my 2 cents based on experience, actual seeing the problems that come about because of this kind of housing. And I think it shouldn't even be tolerated. Thanks.
Cindy March, 76703 Bugle Loop. So I just wanted to say that my taxes are over 5,000 for property taxes. That's a lot. I can imagine it's gonna go up even more if we have low income housing, because who's gonna pay for everything? So I agree. I'm infuriated, and I also want to know is the people who are making this decision as to whether it goes forward or not, do they live in Oak Ridge? Do they live here? They do. Okay, but do they live in Elk Meadows? Because there's a difference. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how only 7 people can make a decision on all of our lives. I don't understand that. And why we can't vote on it. That's thanks. Okay.
G Ford on 4174 West Oak Road. So just a few comments on the plan map. Like the rest of the plan, when you look at the changes that are proposed, it's kind of shocking. Particularly when you compare it to trying to solve the perceived need. And to tie it in with my previous testimony, I'm not opposed to, sprucing up some housing for some folks that need it right now. But base it on really questionable housing. I got sidetracked there. Base it on projected housing needs that are kind of questionable, makes it even harder to take. There's been some derisive language used here regarding CC&Rs within this building, in this room. Prior meetings I've been to, and it's really embarrassing for a member of the community like myself, to have friends and good people talk to that way and kind of treat it in this plan as they're not important. And I think whatever this committee does, they should always value the fact that these people decided to live in Oak Ridge. They bought in here, to be part of the community, and contributed in a lot of different ways. And so we can do better. This plan is just way too big. I would like to see the plan map selectively reduce the amount of land currently being proposed, including Island Ranch, Elk Meadows, Meadowview Court, as well as this other potential areas that the public deems appropriate.
Hi, Judd. My name's Mike George, live at 76760 Beagle Loop. And we're all from Beagle Loop. Like, so, a few years ago, we only moved in, this May, it'll be 2 years that we live in our house. And we looked everywhere. We looked in California, we looked at places in Washington, we looked all over here in Oregon, and we decided here, this is where we wanted to move. And in fact, my wife and I, we came and I told her the house is gonna have to knock my socks off. And damn if it did. Where I live, I have views. We have elk that just come through what we call the Shire, which is the land back behind our house. Except for the mountain lion that we happened to see the other day. The wildlife has been amazing. And it's not only just seeing the elk and the people. Cindy walks by our house, we talk all the time. Trevor and Kim, we were over at their house the other night. So we have this community that surrounds us that we love. We can even see the Milky Way. And I don't know if you can tell, kind of like space. And so we have a telescope, we're able to, see the universe from our house. Literally, we can see the universe from our house, which in some of the places that we've lived, we haven't been able to do that. And this feels like, I don't know how else to say it. This isn't entirely correct, but this feels like it is, you have this quote unquote solution in search of a problem that doesn't exist. And I know that's not entirely true, and I don't know how else to explain it. And that's the only words that can come to my brain when I've been up since 5 a.m. in the morning. And so it's late for me. And this really has the potential of just taking everything away that my wife and I moved here for. Small community, tight-knit community. And it just seems like this is going to go away. We don't have street lights. Mentioned that we don't plow our streets. The occasional time that it snows. And if there's a fire, there's only one way to get out of Elk Meadows. Now all of a sudden we're gonna have 10 trillion people trying to get out of that one way. And it's dark on that windy road that gets you down into Oak Ridge. I counted on the way here, there's only 2 street lights. And I think they were put up by people that lived in those houses and stuff. And so if somebody's walking, they're gonna get killed. That's so I think you guys need to really take a look at this plan that you guys have, and you need to change it. So thanks a lot. Cheers.
Well, I feel like I better step up rather than get that chewed out. So my name is Ken Bykart, out of 48521 Highland Ranch Road in Elk Meadows. What I'm hearing here is we're pretty new. We've been here for a year. We have family and friends over here for their entire lives. So when we decided to move here, we felt like we were coming home. It would be closer to family and some of the people we've got to know over the last 20 years of coming here to visit family and friends. I think there's been a lot of great points that have been brought up on this. I think there's a lot of raw emotion coming out now. I don't see that getting any better from some of them. No one has said here that we don't need this housing in this community. I think everyone is saying that we need to look at where the housing is best placed. There's a lot of infrastructure there that isn't there. Like I said, dark roads, there's no sidewalks, there's no street lights. That is asking for problems with kids that will come in some of these housing developments. Everyone here, I see them every day. I'm out in the community, you know, at the grocery stores, you know, at the restaurants, the community events, the art walk. Everyone here is very involved and active in the community. I think when you're talking about bringing in this high density housing, you're not gonna have people that give to the community. When those people come to that high density housing, you're gonna have people that take from the community. But everyone here is willing to help with that, and they do every day, you know, the Moose Lodge here, we have Moose members here that give back to the community every day. So I just want you to think about what element is gonna come in. You know, like our neighbor here, 30 years in law enforcement, he's seen it. And maybe the data doesn't show it, but maybe it's flawed data as well. But we want to make the best of this community. We're here to stay. So, you know, if we can take a look at some of these areas that can really use it, everyone is for it. But there's some areas here that it just doesn't fit.
Any more screen comments?
I just have I have a question on the commission. Is that county, state, or the city? City,
This, the planning commission?
yes, the planning commission, is that,
City.
it's the city, okay. That was one question, but who makes the final decision?
Council.
The city council, okay, and there's how many, there's 7 of those, and there's 7 commissioners? Planning commissioners,
Planning commission makes a recommendation.
planning, okay. Okay, and then the second thing I had to say was, I'm obviously a senior citizen, and I came up here because it was low in, or because I thought it was very inexpensive to buy. And I just live like right around the corner, and I wouldn't want to see on the next corner over an 8-plex over there, or a 4-plex. I mean, I don't think it would be good for this city. I came here because we have plenty of low income housing as is. And if we allow Section 8 housing in here, it is gonna bring in people that take from the community, that's what has already been stated. People are not, I mean, they don't need jobs. And if you build it, they will come. And it'll be a steady source of income for the people that have developed. Because, like I stated before, it's going to be, this is going to be detrimental to us. We're going to see an increase in the problems that we're trying to nip in the bud right now. We have 20 or so homeless people. It's going to increase even all the more. And so, and I'm not from Oak Meadows, but I'm from downtown here, or uptown, I guess you guys call it. So I'm in uptown, and I don't want it here either. I like it just the way it is. And thank you.
Any more comment in opposition from the room?
My name is Liz Davison at 76760 Bugle Loop. I think everything has been pretty much stated by us, our main concerns and everything. And the only thing that I kind of just wanted to say is, you know, this designation, while it's not saying, oh, yes, these are what's going to be built in these areas, or all these people are going to be coming here, but it opens it up for it. But it also opens it up for land developers to come in and buy these places, start building, but if they run out of money, they leave an unfinished structure. Who's being held accountable for the people that are buying these areas to build the high density housing. And so it just seems like things are not thought out entirely with with the areas. I don't know, all the areas that have been chosen for rezoning or this designation process, but it opens it up to just a lot of bad things that could happen. And you can see it everywhere where, you know, where land grabs happen. When these developers come in and they start building and then they run out of money and then they leave and then you're left with just unfinished stuff that sits there for years. And that is a big possibility of what can happen, especially in an area where you don't have all the things that, you know, downtown or uptown have already built in. They would have to pay for, like the sidewalk lighting and all that, et cetera, et cetera. And the issues of emergency response crews and that sort of thing. So the redesignation of those areas and specifically Elk Meadows, that's what I'm familiar with, and that's where I live. I just don't see it as being a suitable area for this redesignation.
Any comments on the Zoom in opposition? Any comments online for opposition? If there are, please feel free to unmute yourself and start speaking.
I don't necessarily oppose or have an opposition. Oh, my name is Jamie, and I live on 7660 Rainbow. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't necessarily oppose, but I do have a question. Bringing this kind of housing into Oak Ridge, I see it could be a really good thing as far as people building themselves up, giving them a stepping stone to start out with to become better people. But out this far out, I have questions about like the jobs to be able to make that successful. Are there any plans in the works to bring employment out to Oak Ridge to be able to give the lower income people who probably don't have transportation and don't have driver's licenses, to be able to give them the opportunity to be successful out here? Or would it be better to have more expensive housing that, you know, where people would already be set up and reliable and self-sustainable this far out? So my back to my real point, are there any plans to bring jobs to Oak Ridge to help to support something like this?
Sorry, this is not question and answer time. If the planning commission would like to ask a question during their time, they may do so. Any other, does that include your comment?
Enough for now, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any more statements in opposition from Zoom? Hearing none. Do you have any statements in general? Statements in general? And statements in general. Does the planning commission have any further questions or questions of public or staff? Now is your chance to ask any questions you've heard.
I was also curious about the CCRs. It's a little sticky, as mentioned, which one takes precedent, and I know typically in codes, the more restrictive.
CCNRs don't apply to land use. They apply to their civil matter, and that's just where they are, is their civil matter. So CCNRs cannot prevent city zoning ordinances. And if somebody were to choose to build something against CCNRs, it would be on the fault of the people in there to follow on a civil. So, CCNRs and zoning are not in line.
Okay, my question is, though, could they coexist within a certain zoning designation? You know, there's still like a level of architectural detail, I mean, you know, different factors that kind of coexist with it.
So they would, but you wouldn't call CCNR to, then it would be design standards.
Mhm.
And design standards would have to be applied per district, and design standards are applicable for development.
You submitted testimony. House Bill 2001.
CCNRs,
Actually, it's a bill that allows CCNRs to stop any development.
it stops certain types of development, that is correct. Certain types of development are not allowed at CCNRs. Any other questions of planning commission for the public or staff? Would like to carry any questions forward, you heard, now it's time. Hearing none?
Great, just a second.
Yes.
So, just to clarify, for all these Elk Meadow folks, the proposed designation for Elk Meadows would be R2, right? And R2 allows what?
R2 would allow for single family to all the way to triplexes.
For the triplex.
Pretty sure that's, I'd be happy to pull it up and we can verify.
Did you say up to 20 minutes per acre?
Units per acre, correct, but our zoning is based on structure per lot.
You're discussing.
Right, that's what can get a little sticky is if you're discussing a 3 acre parcel. And we go off of structures per lot, that leaves for a lot of unused area.
Manufactured homes and what the heck, let's throw in the shipping container as well.
Yeah.
The sarcasm doesn't produce any sort of positive result. So.
I thought the CCNR was only allowed for single family dwelling in our development, and that's why I don't understand why this is happening.
CCNRs and zoning are not the same thing.
Sorry,
CCNRs and zoning are not the same thing.
I thought that was the stipulation, single family dwelling, one house per lot.
The city has nothing to do with the CCNR. The CCNR is becoming a civil issue by the residents there. If somebody were to buy a lot and build something that didn't conform to the CCNR.
Would that mean we have to have a lot?
So, like when you go to build a house in Elk Meadow and you turn in all your stuff to the city has no clue about what the CCNR say the house has to look like. And they'll approve whatever it does as long as it meets code standards.
And so that issue exists currently, that's already the.
You're arbitrarily changing the code standards to go against a lot of residential neighborhoods that.
It's not code standards, we're not changing. We're not changing the code standards of how you can build a house.
Whatever.
It allows what you can build, not
You're
how
changing the
it's built.
designation
Right.
arbitrarily, knowing it is against our CCNRs. And House Bill 2001 allows us to stand our ground.
Sure, it does,
Because
I understand
we're
that.
putting that financial burden on all of these residents who are clearly against. Who have followed all the rules. Who may potentially all leave this area. You will lose so many volunteers out of our community. You will lose tax dollars, you will lose property values. But this is kind
I'll leave, I will leave, you guys go through it, but I will leave, and you will not get my tax money. I'm serious.
This is a serious matter for a lot of these neighborhoods, and you guys are.
I'm still waiting for Rick.
Oh, the question was, what could R2 allow?
Yes,
Up to 4.
up to a 4 point.
What about the elk population? What's gonna happen to the wildlife? It's gonna be pushed out, is that fair?
Sorry.
We're not in the discussion phase of this, except for the commission.
Do I hear any other questions of public and staff from the planning commission?
I've got a question.
Yes,
So with the R2 is medium density, correct?
correct.
Okay, so, and we're proposing that Elk Meadows would be able to be changed to R2. But somebody had brought up the question about other infrastructure concerns for the redesignation. And so was our only criteria the water pipe?
Water and sewer, yes, as far as infrastructure. Power was not considered because we do not currently control power. That is Laney Electric Co-op, not the city.
Okay, and infrastructure such as sidewalks, that's all taken care of
No,
by,
sidewalks are not required. The sidewalk process happens during the subdivision or partition of properties. That's the only chance where the city has the opportunity to require sidewalks outside of the city council requiring sidewalks for everybody. So those opportunities have passed, and that's the planning commission during the partition and subdivision phase process.
okay, so sidewalks are not required in this subdivision, is that correct?
Sidewalks are required in the subdivision. I can't speak to what happened during the subdivision of Elk Meadows. I was not there.
The property owner is.
No, sir, that's not correct.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We all pay for
Okay,
it.
yeah.
We use CCNRs, but not, I have no ordinance to require sidewalks.
We
Other
submitted
than-
letters.
Our CCNR retired cycle.
Correct, I do not control CCNRs, I do not enforce CCNRs.
We submitted a letter to the city asking for them to pay for our sidewalk, and it was never responded to. So we had to buy, we had to pay for it. So
Trent paid 40,000 for the sidewalk, correct? Not left. 40,000.
Which I'm thankful for, because sidewalks are needed.
But I don't want all the streetlights because we like our dark skies. We like our dark skies, like the stars. We don't want streetlights.
So, Commissioner McCaffrey, thanks for your question.
Yes, thank you.
Do I hear any other questions from planning commissioners of public or staff? Hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move.
I heard two at the same time, so would one of you pick second first?
Second.
All right. Have Commissioner Bowman seconded. So now declare this hearing to be officially closed at 9:06 p.m. Now it's time for planning commission deliberations and a motion if they so desire.
What is the fourth option that we have to continue at a later date?
Correct. The fourth option is to continue at a later date. With direction to the applicant, which would be the community development department, provide the following information to the planning.
I'm sorry, what's the very last part?
So that there is an example of what could be your force. And looking at the time,
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, what are we gonna do? with that?
Yeah. I would make, is it okay if I can make a motion to continue at a later date? This is my first meeting. And so I'm like, wow. There's a lot to consider. I think we have to actually, we need to specify additional information that we would like to look at this point.
right, and that information would be,
So that's what I'm curious. Can we have a discussion about that if we want to?
I need a second before you go to.
Okay.
Yeah, so if there's a. Actually, yeah,
Minus, he wants it part of the motion.
we are in discussion, so maybe discussion can help drive that motion. So,
Yeah,
Is there a
I-
motion?
Is there a motion or are we in discussion?
there, was that a motion?
I mean.
Or are we in discussion?
Yes, I would like to discuss with the commissioners about what additional information if we were to move forward to readjourn at a later date.
So we're discussing.
I think that's an excellent question as to what information we would be looking for if we did decide to push this further down the road. I certainly value the input of everybody who's shown up today, and I don't want to make people I don't want to waste more people's time making them come to a second meeting if we're all here now and there's something that we can decide on. So I guess that's all I have on that thought.
So apparently, I mean, we're only going to, the discussion that we're having here is whether or not we should move this forward to city council. And once city council has it, there will be another opportunity for a public hearing and for all the citizens who are interested, and we'll be going, city council will be going through the same public hearing basis to hear all your comments, and they will be the ones who are actually voting to approve implementing this. We're as a planning commission, we're just recommending to the city council that the maps be updated and the comprehensive plan and all the documentation gets caught up to date, because it's grossly out of date. And we need that so that people can make decisions on how to develop Oak Ridge. And it's always been my adamant belief that Oak Ridge should only develop the way Oak Ridge wants to be developed and not be steamrolled by anybody else's plan. So I just want to make clear that when we're, this isn't the last kick of the can. I mean, city council is the legislative body, and, based on the information that we have and based on the recommendations from the engineering company who is hired to do the study and come forward with recommendations, looking at our code and making recommendations that makes it align better with where the state is going with this and where the House bills have been dictating this. So what we're doing right here is just showing where we're going to be updating the code and how we're going to do it. I mean, we can't, our first concern is that we're not going to do that where we're going to be costing the city money to upgrade infrastructure. So our first main concern is that we are highlighting neighborhoods who have existing infrastructure that doesn't require any updating from the city to make future developments possible. So, I mean, other than that, I'll stop talking and you guys can move forward.
Yeah, I want to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure I agree that there's another opportunity to kick the can. I think that we give to the council bear quite a bit of weight, and I'm not sure whether they are required or obligated to follow our recommendations, but I think they give them a great deal of weight, more so than other committees that might be giving recommendations to the council. I think the recommendations that come from the Planning Commission carry more weight than recommendations that come from other committees.
Well, I'll agree with that, Gary. I was merely saying that the participants tonight who participated in the commentary part, you know, also have another opportunity to state those comments to the city council. And at the end of the day, it's the city council that's going to weigh in, and they're going to legislate that, or they're going to say, hey, you know, we need you guys to come back and take another look at it.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, we're just kind of like the middleman right now, and we'll certainly take everybody's comments into consideration. Megan.
Yeah, so I think that we have an opportunity right now, though, if we know that there's something wrong with the map that we're presenting to council, that we should fix that before we make a recommendation to council.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the information I think I would like you to come back with is how much area do we need to change to meet the goal of the city?
Which goals?
So
The goal of the you know, the housing density goals.
So we know that number, and we are grossly over that number. But what I really need from the planning commission is for them to tell me the criteria that they want me to use to limit this map. What criteria am I to use? Because what I presented to you is the only criteria is the factual,
Right.
what's in the ground.
We started with just the
Starting with
infrastructure.
all the areas that can support it.
Right.
What criteria does the planning commission like for me to use to start cutting that number back? How do I evaluate it?
I think that we need to know how far we're over, how much we can cut back and still meet the goal.
That's.
I mean, it would be difficult to try to tell you.
But it's a little bit
an
of
additional criteria if, and then you be chasing your tail if we give you a criteria that's not going to work, or.
If we come back with, we only need 7 acres of high density, how do we decide which part of town gets those 7 acres?
My question that's been going through my mind is sort of like, what are the precedents for that? And I don't know that personally. It's done in many, jurisdictions and places, and I'm not saying that we would follow what another jurisdiction would do, but just to have an idea of what that process of elimination might look like. And then be able to work the criteria from that and possibly.
That's where we are.
And I think,
right, I understand. I'm kind of like.
And I think you could use Rick's things such as, walkability, the availability of the public transportation, the proximity to amenities such as parks and whatnot that would make a higher density situation more palatable for the residents as they possibly move in.
So I heard they build public transportation, you have a distance, or that there's a 5-minute walk, 15-minute walk, proximity to parks, the same question.
I'm just throwing out ideas, Rick.
I get it. But we need numbers.
Well, and again, I mean, it would depend on how far we're over and how much we could cut back.
We can cut back considerably. If we cut the number by half, we would still be way over the need. But
So then
the question.
Right. So then,
what
do we need another criteria? We need to come up with other criteria, and I agree. I don't think we should send a map that we think is faulty to the city council just to have it come back when we can fix it and we're already past our time anyway. And we could address it one time. Because if we send this to the city council, I'm sure all these folks are
Rightfully so.
they're going to show up,
Even though.
and this is gonna go through this whole thing again, and then the city council is gonna go, well, we're way over, what can we do? And we're gonna get it all back anyway.
Right.
So I think rather than run around that circle, let's get it right and send it to them. Since we're way over, let's make the reductions that we can in the places that we can. And we'll come up, we gotta come up with the other criteria to make those reductions where we're not favoring one spot over another, so to speak.
Correct. So when somebody.
So it's a blind thing.
Right, so when somebody on the south side of Highway 58 says,
Right.
if we reduce Elk Meadows and you didn't reduce mine, we need to have a solid.
Absolutely.
Answer to be able to give them.
Yeah. And for all of you that are, this is just me speaking now, for all of you that are worried about like these mobile home parks, there hasn't been a mobile home park built in the state of Oregon in over 20 years. And if they do build a mobile home park, it doesn't look like the mobile home parks you see here. It has to have winding roads, it has to have infrastructure, it has to have street lights, it has to have all these things that the ones you see here don't have. So
I don't think we're worried about mobile home parks. I don't think we see.
this is me talking. Okay, so and for those of you in Elk Meadows, I live in Elk Meadows. I built a house. I did it all too. And I understand your concerns, but it's an awful lot of what I'm hearing from you, and this is what bothers me, is you're okay with the city doing it, you just don't want it in your backyard.
I don't,
There's no need.
And that's, you know, I would hope that my neighbors were better than that, but that's just me.
excuse me?
Wow.
Excuse me.
So, anyway,
We stated that the population is.
Anyway.
And there's no need for it.
so that would be my motion to put this off to the next time with information about how we can cut back and still meet the city goal.
Don wanting to chime in on discussion.
Yeah.
It's not low income. It's not low income. So if I built a duplex so that my kids could live next to me and help take care of me in my old age, would that be low income?
How are you gonna monitor?
How would that be low income? Answer the question.
It's hypothetical, who knows who's gonna be.
Absolutely, and it's all hypothetical that you all think that because they say higher density housing is apartment buildings with people who are on welfare.
Can I ask where you live?
Why was
I
that
don't
in the
know who
plan?
you are. I don't know who you are and where you live. Please tell me who you are and where you live in Elk Meadows, because I've never met you before.
Absolutely you have, we've talked numerous times, I live right next to Ron.
That's you.
That's me,
Okay, what's your name?
yeah.
What name is it?
John McClellan.
Okay, well, see, I'm seeing you in a different area. Okay.
Anyway, that would be my motion, I don't know if anybody wants to second.
Motion is.
To postpone this to the next meeting while we determine how we can cut back and still meet the city goal.
So,
Because to me, that makes
can I interject a question before we go to that? Rick,
Yes.
what is the relationship between designation and zoning? So if we designate areas of the city that could support additional zoning changes is not the same as changing the zoning of the area we're talking about. Is that correct?
That is correct, but without zoning, I'm not so sure we reach our goal.
Right, so without zoning changes, none of this matters. All we're saying is that there's infrastructure there from the water and the sewer and stormwater system that would support that area being redesignated as a possible rezoning location, correct?
Correct.
Okay, correct. So we're not rezoning anything. All we're saying is we're designating areas of the city that have an attractive qualities that could be zoned at a future date, correct?
Correct. Yes. And
So-
this, I'm sure the meeting, correct.
Yeah, so is there any reason why we should have to re-examine this, this issue again? I mean, because it's not affecting this current zoning that's in place, and nor is it actually creating a situation where we're rezoning it right now. All we're saying is this is a designation.
Correct, and to kind of put that into perspective, if we stopped in the designation and somebody came in with a building permit for a triplex in the area, I would have to deny that building permit because it does not meet the zoning. And then that individual would then have to apply for a rezone for the next, so that would throw another step in the process.
Right.
At the cost of the property owner.
That's not what the map says.
Well, I was
So is,
that this is a point of confusion here. No, it's just a designation and it's not a rezone. And if anybody comes into that thing and said, oh, you've designated that as a possible R2, they still have to apply for a rezone on the property that they're building on. And that would still have to go before the planning commission and it would still have to be voted on. So I just wanted to get that out there so that in case anybody was thinking that this was a stepping stone to rezoning something and making the path easier for them. It's just a way that we can look at the districting of the city and understand where it would be possible if it did exist.
Why does the map say that will be the zone? That's what
Yes.
the map says.
My issue with it is that once it's designated, it just makes it easier to go over and causes more hassles with you having to deal with somebody wanting to do something because it's designated and not zoned and go through that whole process.
Right.
I would rather see us go and spend the time to narrow it down. And so that, because our next step here in request 3, or what is it? That we change those zones?
No, that's request 4.
Okay, so we take, so I'm saying it's in here. So I would rather us go through the whole process of narrowing this down since we're so far over. And then we can bam, bam, bam with the rest of this and get it to the city council.
Understood, but again, if I need to hear a motion and a second.
So I move that we, one, postpone this to the next meeting. And that we come up with more criteria. I threw out some examples or some suggestions. And everybody else in the council could send you their suggestions.
When
anything, no?
we need it, the motion needs to be verbalized.
Well, point of order, I think what you're asking staff to do is to come back to you with what criteria can be used in designation. For instance, can public distance to public transportation be a criteria? Can sidewalks be a criteria? Can streetlights be a criteria?
Well, I'm suggesting that those all be criteria. There you go. I'm suggesting that we look at where there are streetlights, where proximity to public safety, proximity to parks, proximity to amenities such as, grocery stores and on. I don't know. Maybe that one enough.
I understand. What's the measure? What's the measuring stick?
Oakridge is only so big.
I mean, yeah.
May I interject here?
Yes.
I agree. I feel like as a planning commission, we're a bunch of volunteers who aren't necessarily trained in this, so asking the staff to come back to us with all of the possible criteria in this motion, as was just suggested, so that we can further pick down should be added to this motion.
I'd like the ability to choose, to not state that all of those are the criteria at this point. I'd like the ability to come back and decide as a commission which criteria, as opposed to choosing specific criteria now. I think now we're just asking for additional information.
Right, because there's some criteria that's legal.
Yeah.
Some that are not.
Right.
Based on race, that would be illegal.
Or income.
Or income, that would be criteria.
Right.
So
So
are you willing
could
to
we
amend
have
your
a-
motion?
To your point. You want us to come back with the measure?
Yes.
Perfect.
And we could come back with, if we apply this one, it narrows it down to here. If we apply this one, it narrows it down to here. If we apply this one, it narrows it down to here. What do we want to do?
So after we meet all of this criteria, we're gonna have to have another public hearing.
Continuing, the motion is
We're
to continue.
continuing this to the next meeting.
I think we close this public hearing. And
What's already closed?
not,
This one's,
it's not quite closed.
just point of order, the motion's on, it's on the table, is to continue the public hearing. It's just like the budget committee, if you adjourn, then you have to renotice.
No, we don't have to notice that we make the meeting from here.
There's been two motions, no second. She made an original motion, and he made a motion. Neither one's been seconded. So there's kind of two motions.
And we don't have to notice if the motion is, and the date is set at this meeting.
Right, I'm saying, you have to continue it, not, that's all. You adjourn the meeting, then you have to renotice.
So as I understand it, we have a second motion on the floor, and we've just ended our discussion of that. So are we voting on that motion right now?
Is there a second?
There's been no second.
I second.
So the motion is for staff to come back with options to reduce.
That still meets the city goal.
Can I just ask you a question?
No.
I just want to know if the police force is going to increase if we have more people.
Alright, so they have a motion for staff to come back with reduce in, okay, let me rephrase this correctly. I heard a motion for staff options to reduce, yet still meets the goals.
The city goal.
And you have the first,
Does this still include identifying that criteria that we might choose from?
and then was there, I did hear second. Who had that second?
That was me. I'm really interested in having some sort of a work session or discussion about this. So I think that would satisfy that.
So here, call for the question.
For a vote?
Discussion or call for the question?
I think we discussed it. I think we've already discussed it.
I understand. Just a question or
do-
call for-
I have a question. So if we make this motion, are we gonna have to renotice and restart this whole process?
It sounds to me, I don't have a solid answer on that one because it sounds to me like we're going to be going back into a work session. So there's no guarantee on either the answer. I think it's up for.
Can we postpone this to the next meeting and have a work session in between them?
Materials that show up for you guys to evaluate has to be available to the public, and that's where things And then,
For a work session?
yes. And for what's going into the proposed new ordinance, or the proposed new changes.
Okay.
The reason I'm a little hesitant is that I see noticing issues coming and I see lack of availability issue coming.
So how did you say we avoid noticing?
You continue the meeting to a certain date, so you continue the meeting to, let's say, March 3rd, as an example. In between that time, you could schedule a work session, a separate work session. That's.
There you go.
And those are both
Perfect.
public meetings, open to the public.
Great. And I'm just trying to also avoid the renotice.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're postponing, we're
So-
continuing this until our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is
The planning commission meeting, which is March 18th.
18th.
We double check.
And then in between there,
Yeah, March 18th, so
and sometime before March 18th, if we needed a work session, after you've had an opportunity to help, we could do a work session. And he's nodding his head yes, so I'm happy about that.
So how does the public find out about a work session that we can join?
it would be on the website, and if you put your name on the list over there, I'll make sure you get the information for it.
Okay. And is that,
Did everybody put their name on the email, contact info?
is that when?
But understand, work sessions aren't a situation where you're all gonna get to sit and talk, all you get to do is listen.
Yep, right. That
Yeah.
means you review the letters and the pages that Sharon gave you at your work session.
No decisions can be made during the work.
No, it's not the decision, it's reviewing the pages. The pages that Sharon gave you, like 5 pages, so that would probably play into your work session. Because that's, it's from the community, some comments that were made and some that haven't been made are on those pages. So that is part of your process for your work session, like you look at those, right?
Yes, so those would be put in the register.
Can I, submit my testimony, the one that I gave tonight by email, or you want to do that?
Well, we will be reopening the public hearing, so you're more welcome to submit it then.
On March 18th, this will just continue and you could have an opportunity to submit your written testimony then.
But what's a meeting in 2 days? What is that for?
Is it,
They're gonna
That's a
talk
regular
about
city
same
council
money?
meeting.
No, we'll live with it.
Right, so
Maybe I'll be in-
any more?
We need to vote.
All right. Commissioner Anderson is not with us. Commissioner Goldman,
Yes, what?
we're voting on the motion for staff to provide options to reduce, yet still meet the goals of the city.
To postpone, or to continue this meeting until March 18th. To give you time to come up with criteria that we can use to narrow down the designations of.
And to continue this meeting to March 18th.
Yes.
From the beginning, motion for staff to provide options to reduce that still meets the goals of the city and to continue the meeting until March 18th.
Aye.
Close enough.
And call for the vote, Commissioner Goldman,
Aye.
Commissioner McCall,
Aye.
Commissioner Moats,
Aye.
Commissioner Carl. Commissioner Carl. Commissioner Durant,
Nay.
Aye.
Commissioner Metcalf,
Aye.
and Carl, I
Oh,
did hear.
oh, wait a minute. Nay. I'm trying to. I-
Motion carries,
There we go.
and then we will also be picking up,
Nay,
commissioners.
oh no,
Rest of the other two public hearings. Can I get a motion to also revisit those on the March 18th meeting for 25 DC 01 part 1, part 2?
I move that we readdress part 1 and part 2 at our March 18th meeting.
I was second.
The first and a second to readdress local file 25 ZC 001 part 1 and part 2 at the March 18th meeting previously scheduled. Commissioner Goldman,
Aye.
Commissioner McClellan,
Aye.
Commissioner Mills,
Aye.
Commissioner Carl, Commissioner Grant,
aye,
Aye.
Commissioner Metcalf.
Aye.
Awesome. And, so now here's what we are going to not adjourn, but we will continue this meeting on March 18th. Do you want to schedule a work session? At this time, so if not adjourned, we will pick this back up on March 18th. Record is open until then, so if anybody has anything to submit, please do so.
Wow. John, what is the goal of the city as far as
The housing needs analysis. Too heavily zoned R1. 90% of the city is zoned R1. And so to meet the housing needs analysis. Right. So when we started the process, just like Rick said, we strictly looked at